Hey, Dan, what's up?
Dude, you know what's up? Anchor.
Yeah, Anchor is what's up.
It is the best and easiest way to make a podcast,
It
bar
is.
none.
Oh, absolutely. It's totally free.
Yeah,
So,
gratis.
yeah.
That's Latin for free. Like, that's how good this thing
It's
is. We're
awesome.
using Latin, dude.
Yeah.
Shit's getting real.
And you can record and edit
Yeah.
the podcast right from your phone or your computer. You don't have to have fancy stuff. We have fancy stuff. We're fancy people.
We are very fancy.
We're like the humble, fancy people. Yeah.
But, you know, we're of the people, though.
Yeah.
And that's what's great about Anchor. Anchor's for the people.
Right.
Any kid with a phone can just do it.
And you can make money off of it with no minimum listenership.
Yeah, exactly. Anchor hooks you up with sponsors.
Hell yeah.
And you just do ads for them.
You just do what
you get paid.
And they'll distribute the podcast everywhere. Spotify, Apple Podcast,
Google Podcasts,
you name it.
That.
They'll go to space for you. They love you. Yeah.
Dude,
Anchor.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's free. And it has a lot of great tools. You know, you can do these little videos for like social media and stuff that they make for you. And it's amazing. And it's free.
So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Yeah, that's anchor.fm. Do it, guys. Start your own podcast.
Yeah.
The American people, no matter what their political views may be, are sick and tired of a president who is a pathological liar, who is running a corrupt administration, who is a bully and a vindictive person, who is a racist, a sexist, a xenophobe, a homophobe, and a religious bigot. And those are his nice qualities.
Hello and welcome to this mini Potibus Unum.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah, it's a nice little, like a Lindt truffle. It's like a little midweek candy bar. So this is now part 2 of our discussion on taxation.
Yeah, taxation.
There's too much focus on deficits versus focusing on a robust economy. Again, a Republican light will focus on the deficit, whereas a Democrat will focus on making the economy as robust as possible for everyone. They are allowing themselves to be played because they're still in this mindset from the inflation of the 1970s, and they're just turning over like little Democratic armadillos. What we need is an actual network that actually can message progressive values. Wouldn't that be nice?
That would be amazing.
Yeah. The other thing that we need to constantly remember, aside from the fact that the corporate mainstream media is manipulating us and is being disingenuous, is that most of the economy is simply made up. It's a set of rules that we all just somehow agreed to agree upon.
Yeah, totally. You know what they call that back in the neighborhood?
What do they call it?
Fugazi. So we lock it in. Just call me Vito.
All right, Vito. What we need, Dan, is what we need is a word.
I'm here too.
What we need, Dan, is a word for the real economy that incorporates, the underemployed or people who have given up looking for work, not just the stock market.
Yeah.
That's all that they care about. And they're like, unemployment's at XXX, but that doesn't include people who are underemployed or who have given up looking for work.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I remember just in the news, there was always a segment of how the stock market is. And as a kid, I was like, what is that?
Yeah.
And I was like, I guess it must be good news because they literally mention it every day. But they, the media has never given us like some other barometers.
It's a total emperor's new clothes thing. Through Clinton, the stock market hit record highs. Then, of course, a Republican came in and destroyed it. And then Obama, it hit record highs consecutively.
Constant records all the time.
And now because of that trajectory, because we haven't entered into the Trump recession yet, which everyone says is going to happen next year. Unfortunately, it's not in time for the election, but will probably happen next year. It's going to continue to hit record highs. But I have to give a shout out here to NPR's program Planet Money. They did they always do excellent ones, but one of my favorites is on the Dow and what it is. And basically, spoiler alerts here, it's nothing. When I said Emperor's New Clothes, that's what it is. It is bullshit. Nobody knows what the fuck a Dow is.
What do you mean?
The Dow has reached 30,000.
Yeah.
It means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. There's a media thing. I don't even remember how long ago. I once said 20s or 30s. Don't tweet me on that. I could be wrong. Where they just wanted to know, like, hey, what's a quick indicator of it? And everyone's like, I don't know. Let's talk about the Dow. So that's it. It's a great episode. If I could find a link for it, I'm going to put it in the show notes.
Yeah, I would love to hear that.
Yeah. Otherwise, Planet Money, they did a really great job on it.
They always do really good work.
The distribution of income is malleable. We created the structure of the economy. So because everything is made up, the economy is how we as a society want to structure it. Another part of the economy that we really need to discuss are externalities. So think of things like you go to work for Walmart and they say, oh, this person's employed. Well, first off, that person's probably underemployed.
Welcome to Walmart.
Thank you. Because Walmart has externalized healthcare. That person is paid so little they have to go on to Medicaid, which is funded for by our tax dollars, right? Because a society cares about its people. That's what a society is supposed to do. That same person has to also apply for SNAP or food stamps because, once again, that is the role in a democracy of us to give a helping hand to those of us who are neediest. It's not a leg up. And when Walmart externalizes all those things that they should be covering, then it falls upon us as a society to make sure that the least fortunate of us don't starve or freeze or die so that they have healthcare so that they can eat. Also, the biggest thing is, of course, pollution.
You're all over the place today, bro.
No, I'm talking about externalities. These are all externalities that are not factored in. They don't have to pay for pollution. Nobody has to pay for pollution. And now we're all stuck, breathing toxic air. Or take Flint, Michigan, or the literally dozens and dozens of cities around this country that have toxic drinking water. Nobody pays for that.
Yeah.
So it has to go back to the American people to fix the mess caused by a private corporation that has maximized its profits at the expense of the American people. So when I say they want us disenfranchised, destitute, and dead, I'm not being hyperbolic. They want us disenfranchised so that we can't vote for people who might actually represent the American people instead of the corporations. They want us destitute so they can maximize their own profits at our expense. And they want us dead because otherwise they would have to pay more in taxes, right? So that way we don't die of a lack of healthcare. We don't die from the pollution that they caused.
Taxism is a never-Trumper. That's the word on the street. Everybody says it.
So we have to ask ourselves questions like, why are CEOs making hundreds and hundreds of times more than the average worker now than they were a few decades ago, right? Who does this economy work for? It's actually easier in some respects to change the way that the economy works than to add a new tax. But I think it has to be a two-pronged approach, right? I do think that we have to, tax.
We have to adjust what just happened under Trump first, because that's ridiculous.
But we also have to change the economy so that way they can't acquire this kind of obscene amount of wealth used to oppress Americans that they acquired off of the backs of the American people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We have to instill the capital gains tax.
When we talk about taxing the wealthy, we have to discuss it in terms of the societal impact and not in the money itself, because it's anathema to the American principle of talking about the money itself. But when we talk about the societal impact, we can talk about the importance of an estate tax, because the whole idea of this country is that we fought a war for independence so that we don't have an aristocracy and a king.
Yeah.
There's an important
too late.
Yeah.
Shit's going down already.
Right. We don't want society based on noblesse oblige. That's when the noble class doles out charity at their will, doles out their money.
No, I know. That's the situation we're in now with billionaires.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we have to pray that we get lucky enough to have billionaires that try to do the right thing with their money, but we shouldn't. That's not how you run a society.
Yeah. Hey, Bloomberg, how about funding some down ballot races? How about some Senate races against Republicans also with all that money?
How about a fund for poor black kids who got arrested when you were mayor?
That's a good idea. Yeah. So we talked earlier about how when the marginal tax rate in the 50s was over 90%, it was our most productive era. We also have public universities that were nearly free. And neither of us were alive, but Truman tried to implement universal health care around that time. Then in the 80s comes in Reagan, and he just reverses our freedoms. They called him the great communicator because he was great at communicating these evil, detrimental plans. But putting lipstick on that pig.
What do I always say? A, B, See, always be communicating.
Yeah.
And that's what he was, but he was great at it.
Yeah.
And the Dems have to be great at it.
So is Hitler.
Yeah. Oh my God, Hitler was the best. High five.
No. Okay. The problem is we've been on the defense ever since.
Exactly.
And we must be on the offense. Somebody pointed out that the only group that has actually not lost ground, but has actually made progress since Reagan has been the LGBTQ population. Every other community has been on the defense since then because repugs are playing offense. They're playing a much harder game than we are. And we're, twiddling our thumbs, looking at the rule book while they tore it up. Here's an example. When the repugs say they're going to dismantle Obamacare, one way that we could go on the offense against that is to call out the real culprits, the people who own the Republicans, big pharma, insurance companies, private hospitals. Don't necessarily go after the politicians, but you go after their puppet masters. You expose them to the American people. Here's a show for X, Y, and Z.
Yep.
A scale.
Yeah.
The reason right now that the Dems can't do what, say, some of the Nordic countries did is because
they're all socialists, those Nordic countries.
The Democrats are still beholden to economic elites, which...
Hey, you know what I beholden?
What?
Drugs, because I'm a drug addict. Did you see that video where a piece of white stuff falls out of my nose?
No, but I'm sure there's many that
That's
exist,
a real video. I was like, oh man, they're on to me.
We have to shift the power back to the people and away from these elites.
Nice. Now you're talking like Rage Against the Machine, bro. Yeah. That's what I like.
Another reason is that Americans don't understand what the government or what democracy does and how it affects our daily lives. Yeah. The problem is that Republicans have been so good at branding us. We now see ourselves as quote unquote taxpayers. And the word taxpayer is a politically loaded term that invokes an idea of a one-way transaction with the government or democracy being bad and burdensome. Yeah. So remember, they think democracy is bad and burdensome. The proper framing for this is that as citizens in a democracy, we are beneficiaries. We are beneficiaries of our investments.
Yes.
Or beneficiaries of our dues to our exclusive American membership.
Ooh.
This is why liberals get upset when our government doesn't work and why repugs don't want government to work because they have an ongoing war on our democracy. We talked about earlier about outsourcing it so that way private corporations can maximize their profits any way possible. And we said this many episodes ago, is it's much cheaper to buy a politician and pass some sort of tax scam law and lobby than is to actually innovate and research, which is what, you're supposed to do as a company. That sounds like a
lot of work.
It's socialism, for the top 1%.
I don't see a problem with that.
That's why liberals and progressives get upset, because when we are paying our membership into an exclusive club of American citizenship or American democracy, and we are not getting the services that we expect for that, that would upset anyone.
I like that. I like the Platinum Club of America.
That's why also Europeans don't revolt with higher taxes because they're getting those services that they're paying for. And remember, because of years of Republicans forcing us to externalize our democracy to private corporations, we pay a lot more for those services that other countries pay a lot less for and at lower quality, say for healthcare.
Yeah, and they've, demonized taxes. They've turned it into something that's punitive.
We can look to history on ways that we can fix this. One area is Scandinavia. In the first half of the 20th century, Scandinavian countries were a mess.
Oh.
And they turned themselves around. They now have more entrepreneurs in Scandinavia per capita than the United States.
It's true?
Yeah.
We do.
They have the highest achievement in shared prosperity.
Yeah, this is true. This guy's good.
They've gotten rid of poverty, essentially.
Yeah.
And their attitude towards entrepreneurship is that it's a creative act like painting. So they need support from society, which is free to them in the forms of grants and education.
Yeah, like in Sweden, they'll pay you for a year to take off work for a year and start a company or something like that, which is crazy, which if you talk to any capitalist here in this country, they'll be like, that's pretty fucking cool. Like you're paying me to actually be an entrepreneur. It's amazing. And that's in a socialist country. I think it's important to point that out. People don't realize what's going on over there.
But we have to take the word back because,
absolutely.
Again, talk about being stuck in the 70s. Look, older people come out and vote. And older people have the association with the word socialism being the Cold War and South America. It was framed at the time to gin up jingoism in support of America versus the socialists. But in reality...
After World War II, though, most of Europe went socialist.
Exactly. And it's a perversion of the word. Our connotation is not the denotation. And remember, the billionaires get socialism now.
Yeah. And our elected Congress people and senators get socialized healthcare and the military.
Yeah.
And they have socialized housing.
And the elderly.
Yeah. And the elderly. Yeah. I mean, and what's wrong with the word social?
And education.
Social clubs, social network.
If anything, you hear Republicans talk about the community. Well, invest in your community then. My community is the American community, right?
You can't have a community without social.
Scandinavia actually still has billionaires, but their values are, if you took a lot, you should contribute a lot. Yeah. People like Bill Gates or Bezos or whoever, first off, they were lucky enough to be born into families that were already relatively well off and were exposed to this kind of education that was paid for by the American taxpayers. And even also in Scandinavia, they don't have to worry about pensions. They don't have to worry about healthcare. They don't have to worry about university.
Yeah.
The steps that they took for turning themselves around was they totally reconceptualized their economy of, hey, let's make it work for the people.
Exactly. Right? More bottom up.
They did that right after World War II. So having your country decimated by Nazis and, being in a world war helps you start an economy from scratch again.
Yeah, I don't think we should do that or go in that direction, but it looks like we're going in that direction. Well, but I actually, know a guy who, the Swedish guy who moved back to the U.S. And part of the reason was, and he had said this, he was like, you guys in this country, you guys don't care about your own people. You just want to kill your own people.
You said a Swedish guy moved back to the U.S.?
No, I'm sorry, moved back to Sweden.
So he's Swedish, he was living here, and then he moved back. I see. Yeah. Well, he's right. It's not all of us, but it's mostly...
Yeah, because he wanted to raise a family, and that was the best place to do it. Because here...
I could, absolutely.
He'd go broke trying to get health care for his wife and his child,
Going back to that Republican mindset of their war on the American people because we are quote-unquote undeserving because we're not the right race, we're not the right gender, the right sexuality,
right religion.
The right religion, or we don't have the right amount of zeros in our bank account.
Yeah.
Well, before the decimal point. They reconceptualized their economy. They looked at the sources of wealth and they said, hey, workers are what are bringing us wealth. Yeah. So being more productive and innovative helps the economy.
Absolutely.
They realized this. It only took them a world war, but at least they realized it. And if you treat workers well, then they also have a sense of satisfaction. So they're more productive.
Yeah.
So that's what ends up happening. Americans' corporatist view on work is the beatings will continue until morale improves. And if it doesn't, we'll just kick you out, right?
Yeah, I like that. That's a good one.
They also allow you to have the freedom to change your job even in your 40s or 50s.
Yeah.
Which we don't have here. We don't have those freedoms. We'd like to restore our freedoms. This is what happens when an economy is run by the people instead of the oligarchs. Yeah. For instance, in America, we say if you want to quit, there are a dozen people waiting to take your jobs. That's an economy run by the oligarchs. In an economy run by a democracy, by the people, by democracy, we'd have full employment. So when we invest in workers, they become more productive and our economy grows. Everyone gets richer. That's how, they use the bullshit term of rising tide raises all boats, but most people can't afford a fucking boat, which is right.
Exactly.
But when you have a productive economy that invests in workers and the economy itself grows, then everybody can, have the tide rise in their boat or whatever.
It's true. Jet ski. It's true. I'm from. Everyone rises together. It's really nice.
Nordic workers, by the way, are more productive than American workers, and the economies outperform ours or in the British for the last 60 years.
Yeah. Is that true? I didn't know that one.
Yeah. Also, some of the most satisfied and happy people on earth live in the Nordic countries.
Yeah, I'm very happy.
Lastly, progressive taxation leads to greater happiness. In 1971, the King of Bhutan asked, why are we pursuing gross national product when we should be pursuing gross national happiness?
Yeah.
So in Bhutan, which is not a wealthy country. It set up the structure for gross national happiness. All legislation that is passed needs to consider the gross national happiness. This was the inspiration for the United Nations Happiness Index, actually. It's our cynicism, which is a lack of community, a lack of trust in government and institutions, which weigh Americans down. Things like universal healthcare and free education create social mobility and increase our happiness. Workers work fewer hours but are more productive.
It's true.
Large amounts of parental leave are given to the citizenry.
They're getting like a year.
There's a greater sense of social cohesion there, so we can actually come together as all Americans instead of having these lunatics
separate us into our...
They have vacation time available for all. Life expectancy is higher. They don't have an obesity epidemic. They don't have an opioid epidemic.
Nope.
They have lower rates of corruption in their government.
Yeah, that's true.
And they feel that the state does what it is supposed to do, protect us, educate us.
Yeah. It's because we are the state, you see?
9 out of 10 Danes are happily paying their taxes, and Danes believe that they are investing in their society, and that's what they are.
Yes, it's true. So, we're not just a dog, we're like whole people.
So some of you may say, okay, well, let's say that we passed these laws. What about our court system? Well, we're at a time now of asymmetric polarization. So that means that the Republicans have moved much more far to the right than Democrats have moved to the left. And you can quantify this. It's usually by voting records and things like that.
Yeah.
But the Nordic countries made their breakthroughs at the time of greatest polarization when the Nazis were occupying Europe. So what polarization does is it heats up the polity. That's where we are now. Now we are heated up, and we have to be heated up. You need that heat to polarize. It's like I heard someone say, like applying heat to metal for a blacksmith to make it into something useful. So right now, this is the fight that we're in, and there is no neutrality. If you stay home, if you do not vote, that is a vote for Trump.
Go blue no matter who. I see people talking about, I could never vote for Sanders, or I could never vote for Bloomberg. Well, then you're just going to get more of fucking Trump, and that's just going to be horrible.
Yep.
I don't think it would be that bad, quite frankly. I'm the best president ever. Everybody knows it.
That's it for this mini-pod. Wait, what did we call it? Mini-podibus unum?
Podimini, no.
E-minibus, whatever the fuck is.
E-podibus mini.
I don't think that was it.
Minibus. E-minibus unum.
That's it for this episode of E-minibus unum.
It's a mini one.
We'll have another episode coming up in the next few days. Please give us a rating on Apple Podcasts. In fact, give us a good rating. Please give us like 5 stars.
Yeah, or 6 if you can do it. If you're like a hacker.
Yeah, give us 6 stars.
And you can make a 6-star, do it. We will not tell anybody.
Wherever your podcasts are.
No snitching.
Please also help spread the word. We're a new podcast, and word of mouth is how most podcasts get new listeners. Do it for everyone you know and love. Do it for democracy.
Yeah.
As always, thank you to our supporters, and please go to anchor.fm/epodibus to become a supporter. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
This podcast means so much to me and Dan, and we put so much work into it. We appreciate anything and everything that you can do. Please spread the word. We also would love your feedback. What do you like? What don't you like? What suggestions do you have? Is there a topic you'd like us to cover? Please tweet or send us an email. We're also looking for someone to help out, maybe a researcher, a producer, or something.
Yeah.
Anyone who has some free time, who likes us, who likes podcasts.
Yeah.
Who likes politics.
Please help us.
Please help us.
We'd
love to do a little bit more in depth.